Is it really possible that NASA deceived the world? According to a former astronaut, it's entirely possible.
Regarding the Apollo mission, I can't say 100% for sure whether these men walked on the moon.
Brian O'Leary was a NASA astronaut in the 1960s and served as a science advisor during the Apollo moon missions.
It's possible that NASA could have covered it up just in order to cut corners and to be the first to allegedly go to the moon.
We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals so that security and liberty may prosper together. Theodore Roosevelt said, "To announce there must be no criticism of the president or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but morally treasonable to the American public. To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of men." So we should have 1 million people out here today on the 5th anniversary of 9/11. We need to know the truth of 9/11 because that is the historic event of this century which has caused the tyranny, has created the pretext for lies and tyranny and treason on the part of the occupant of this Casablanca. So why am I here today? Why did I fly all the way in from Ecuador to do this? Because I grieve for my country. I've come to Washington today to join you in striking old roots and planting new seeds. We need not only to take back Washington and restore the Republic and our Constitution and the law as the law of the land. We are not only creating a movement of movements. We are not only encouraging whistleblowers. Some of you out here in the park might be working for the government right now, and you might have some qualms of conscience. This is the time to follow your conscience and tell the truth and seek the truth with love and compassion for all humanity. And if you lose your jobs, so what? I lost my job because I dared to challenge the existing order.
Brian O'Leary has seen more than just about any civilian when it comes to the world of free energy or zero-point energy devices. As an idealistic young PhD in space sciences, he was slated to go to Mars on a NASA mission when the Vietnam War shifted the U.S.'s priorities. Instead, he became a professor, teaching at Cornell alongside Carl Sagan and later at Princeton in the physics department. And ultimately, his broad curiosity about future technologies in space brought him to the understanding that only through free and clean energy can we progress as a global species. The rub has been that vested interests have thwarted this progress at every turn.
Yes, you know, it took me a long time to, even I resisted addressing the question of free energy or zero-point energy or vacuum energy or any of the more esoteric sounding energy sources which have been out there and researched for quite a while. And so I finally decided to address that question in the early 1990s, late 1980s. I traveled the world. I visited many of the most promising inventors and researchers and found that there are devices of all kinds out there that are not at the practical stage as practical devices that we can use. It's like there are a lot of Wright brothers out there testing out and proving the concept, but we haven't gone through the critical step yet of actually developing a real device that people can generally use.
That's very inexpensive and accessible to all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I am fully confident, by the way, that any one or some of these technologies can be implemented if we have the will, if we have the courage. Then we can move ahead into this. And I also feel that this option, the option of so-called free energy, is the only option available to us now that makes any sense in meeting even a fraction of the total energy demand of the world. So we have this two-edged sword now. We have a situation in which There have been literally hundreds to thousands of inventors out there that have been divided and ruled and suppressed. And we have a concept whose physics has gotten much better known. I've made it a personal study through the years, over the last 3 decades actually, to prove to myself that it's experimentally viable, that with a concerted research and development effort, we can come up with some extraordinary technologies for clean, cheap, decentralized energy. And it would just blow the whole energy crisis wide open, and we could solve our principal problem of sustainability, which is that we've been using very dirty energy.
Our agenda must be visionary. It must include bold Apollo-type programs to develop clean energy, exploring the full range of options, whether they're accepted or not by leading scientists, many of whom are in cahoots with the powers that be because that's where the money is. We must produce new energy, and by new energy I mean not the traditional renewables. We must go beyond solar, wind, biofuels, and hydrogen fuel cells. We need energy that is futuristic, energy that's clean, cheap, decentralized, such as the zero-point energy, hydrogen and advanced hydrogen technologies that go way beyond what General Motors can give us. And beyond nuclear. Very, very well. No nuclear, no nukes. No nukes. And no more wars for oil. And our energy agenda, we can do research and development on some of these energy sources which will provide a quantum leap in energy. We could all have our little power packs generating, let's say, 10 kilowatts of power for everybody on Earth. That can be developed for a research and development budget of $200 million. How much is $200 million? Well, that's money that is spent one day to destroy Iraq. One day in Iraq. Or 2 days of profits for ExxonMobil. It must provide for continuing support of those displaced in moving from a war economy to a domestic peace economy. No more war here.
Right, no more war.
We have warmongers that are in charge. They weren't even elected. And most likely, they created 9/11. And we have to wake up to that possibility.